What are the red flag signs that you look for that may indicate that a startup may not be a good fit for your investment, or say for any VC investment in general?
Correct. I think again it boils down to the market size, right? So market size is the first and straightforward thing, that it has to be a huge market, $1 billion plus opportunity for a VC fund and even for an angel fund or micro VC fund to invest in, right? So that is the first thing. So if it is a small market, it's a clear no, right?
एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स ना प्रॉब्ली स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम का सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है एंड दे हैव बीन एप्टली नेम्ड एंजल्स. आज का एपिसोड स्टार्ट होगा एज अ मॉडल मास्टर क्लास ऑन 5 स्ट्रैटेजीज ऑन हाउ टू एंजल इन्वेस्ट. हम बात करेंगे कि इंडिया के टॉप सक्सेसफुल एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स जैसे कि अनुपम मित्तल हो गए, उन्होंने ओला या लॉट ऑफ दीज एंजल इन्वेस्टर्स, उन्होंने ओला, फ्लिपकार्ट एक्सेट्रा से कैसे एंड कितने पैसे बनाए, and what are the success rates of angel investors and startups in India. We will talk about the hot upcoming sectors in the startup ecosystem. आज हम बात कर रहे हैं to someone who has been an investor for many years and अब वो एक माइक्रो वीसी रन करते हैं. He trains people on how to start or accelerate their angel investment journey as well. He's been a founder in the past. इन्होंने अपनी पहली कंपनी चालू की थी अपने IIM अहमदाबाद डेज में बैक इन 2014. We're talking to Ujwal Sutaria. He's a partner of TDV Ventures. So, what are MSOPs? Why every entrepreneur should know about it? How is running a VC similar to running a startup? How to be a successful investor and how to raise funds successfully as a founder. This episode is one of the most unconventional discussions I've ever had and has been an eye-opener for me as an entrepreneur. Watch it till the end. Hi Ujwal, welcome man.
Hey, hi Pritesh, how are you?
I'm good. So, Ujwal, may I straight away get into one of the most interesting things that you're doing right now. You have been training people, है ना, कि कैसे अपना angel investment journey start करें. आप एक VC रह चुके हैं before this, and to start with, I want to first model the starting 10-15 minutes as a master class on starting your angel investment journey for anyone, right? What would be the basic 101 of angel investing?
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people who are especially in the startup ecosystem or around it, right, they want to get some taste, some more skin in the game, and hence they want to get into startup investing, right? And that is what I'm seeing from last, I would say, 6-7 years. When I was working at Innovan, that time also a lot of people used to reach out to me and were like, "भाई startup में invest करना है," but they didn't know how, right? That time I used to guide them informally, साथ में करते थे. We used to start in group, invest together and all, right? And over a period of time, obviously, when I moved out of Innovan, then I had more time, and that's when I started the course, right? So the basics, if you ask me, 101, there are 4-5 things, right? मतलब है तो वैसे बहुत सारी चीज़ें, but basics I would say is like, say, start with building your knowledge base, right? About startups, about the startup ecosystem, how things work, right? One should start reading a lot of books, articles, attend webinars and podcasts like this, right? To understand how the industry functions, because it is not same as, say, any other mature industry or the corporate world, right? This is completely different. Things move very fast. One needs to learn a lot of new things on a regular basis. A lot of new industries come up, and that also moves very fast, right? So that's something which everybody should work on, and they should build their knowledge base, is what I would say. And obviously then there are various investment terms, due diligence processes, legal aspects and everything, right, which one can figure out. ये सब कुछ ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल है, whether it's at one place or not is a thing, and that's where my course comes into place. But if somebody has the time and effort, then they can find everything online, because everything is easily available online, right? So that's point number one. Second, I would say is, as with any other investment, you should have your own investment criteria, right? And you should build your own investment thesis, right? For example, मान लो अगर आप equities में invest करते हो, you would have some thesis over there, right? That I want to invest in only Nifty 50 companies or blue chip companies only, or small cap only, whatever, right? You should have a similar investment thesis for startups also. how to have that, there are multiple ways to go about it, right? कि पहले तो एक हो गया कि भाई कौन से सेक्टर में इन्वेस्ट करना है. You can start with the sectors that you are comfortable with, that you understand, right? So say for example, if somebody is working with Google, then they would have more knowledge about marketplaces, they would have more knowledge about search engines, they would have more knowledge about various Google products and allied services, right? So that could be the good starting point. And then obviously you can develop interest in other spaces, other sectors. So first thing is you need to figure out which sector you want to focus on, right? So that becomes a part of your thesis. Second is what stage you want to invest in. Typically as an angel investor, early stage में ही मिलेगा मौका, उसके बाद तो नहीं मिलेगा. But many a times you do get opportunities to invest across stages as well, right? So for example, at TDV Partners, I invest mostly at idea stage, but selectively I do invest at pre-series A, series B as well, right? That was to diversify the portfolio. So that is there. Then one needs to understand about their own personality. कि भाई मेरी एक्सपर्टीज़ कैसी है, इंटरेस्ट क्या है, लॉन्ग टर्म विजन क्या है, ये सब आइडेंटिफाई करके देन इट हेल्प्स इन बिल्डिंग अ बेटर इन्वेस्टमेंट थीसिस, राइट. थर्ड आई वुड से इज दिस.
So Ujwal, before we move to the third point, मुझे एक चीज़ समझिए कि इन्वेस्टमेंट थीसिस इज समथिंग दैट यू शुड स्टार्ट विथ, और वो या फिर वो ग्रेजुअली बिल्ड होती है. मतलब क्या हमें इन्वेस्टमेंट थीसिस बिफोर वी स्टार्ट एंजल इन्वेस्टिंग वी शुड हैव एन इन्वेस्टमेंट थीसिस, और with time we grow, we develop an investment thesis?
Pritesh, that's a very good question. I think there is no definite answer to that, right? I have seen both side of people's. Usually क्या होता है कि people just get into it and then build their investment thesis over a period of time, right? That's how I also did, for example, right? मेरे को जो opportunity अच्छी लगी, I just started with that. I invested in 10-15 companies and then over a period of time I built my own investment thesis, right? But now times have changed. The opportunities for investment have increased manifold, right? अभी आप daily देखोगे, मतलब there are so many platforms and so many other ways from where startups will bombard you, right? मतलब say 5 years back there were hardly, I would say 5,000-7,000 startups getting born every year, right? Out of which only 10% would raise. So you had limited opportunities to choose from. But now that has grown multifold, right? And because of that, you need to have an investment thesis right at the start. Otherwise, you will get lost because there are so many opportunities. You won't know, and सब कुछ अच्छा लगेगा, right? Especially when you are starting out, सब कुछ ही अच्छा लगता है क्योंकि अरे वाह ये इतनी मस्त टेक्नोलॉजी है, अरे वाह this is an emerging sector, this is the hot sector, right? There are so many things, and obviously media also plays a role over there, and they hype many things. So to stay disciplined, what I suggest and recommend budding angel investors is to have their own investment thesis and stick to it. That will make life easy. Otherwise, it will become very cumbersome, right? So that is what I say these days. And obviously, these are things which keep on evolving with time, right? There are different strategies in a bull market versus a bear market, which is going on right now. So these things will obviously keep on evolving.
So quickly, what's your investment thesis right now?
Sir, right now my investment thesis is not very different from what it was before. The only one criteria which I have changed or which is different is on the entry price point, right? Before say 6 months or 8 months back, I didn't mind the entry price point. I was fine investing even at a $10 million entry valuation when the company didn't have any idea. They just had an idea, they didn't have any product, no traction or revenues, right? I was happy, and I have invested even in companies which had 15 million valuation and 20 million valuation, right? For example, like you have been in a YC, so you know whenever company graduates from YC, usually 15 to 25 का range होता है, which is still there, right? So that is a shift which has happened with me. I have stopped, or I have constrained myself from investing in YC companies or any company which are having such high valuation, because as an angel, it doesn't make sense, right, in the current market, because now all the future investors, which is Series A, Series B guys, they are asking real questions around revenues, what are the unit economics, what are the gross margins and everything, right? Very few companies will be able to justify that, even the 10 million valuation, when they even are out to raise the next round, or say even if they have 2 million revenue, then also many companies might not justify the 10 million valuation, or they might have just reached their previous round valuation, right? So either they will have to do a flat round or it will be a down round, right? So I think this is the biggest change which has happened. Second change I would say is sectorally also. Like say for example wealth tech, demat accounts and people were trading and everything was booming during the COVID time and lockdown time, right? Which has again subsided. Recent numbers which came out, that was also showing the same. So thoda sector wise also I have been optimizing which sectors to invest in and which are evergreen sector versus which are thoda sectoral and temporary, right?
Which sectors would you say are evergreen sectors?
Here I think SaaS is evergreen, right? So no doubt in that, software is something which people will require all the time. Gaming is something which is evergreen, right? These are, I think, gaming is a recession-proof business is what I feel, and that's how we discuss internally. Third sector which I have started building a liking for and I'm seeing very actively is this sector around spirituality and religion tech, right? I think that is a great sector to focus on, and it's a very India specific thing as well, right? There are global comparables obviously, but it's a very India specific thing, and people are willing to pay for it, right? So it is a business which can build profitably right from day one, and I have seen multiple such companies, right? So that is a sector which I would say is a emerging sector which I am very much interested in, right?
I would love to go back to probably in the later half. I'd love to go back to religious sector for investment. This is the first time I'm hearing this. But before that, yeah, let's come back to the original question, which was say a small masterclass on angel investment. We were on point number 3. Yeah.
Yes. So third is this is a lonely journey, right? As a founding journey, this is also a lonely journey. So if you are in a group, that helps, right? Because you need to brainstorm, and as a single individual, it's very difficult for you to cover all the aspects of evaluating any startup, right? When you're doing it with say 3-4 people or a group of 10-15 people or even more, then different people will have different views, they will have different expertise, and they will ask questions from that angle, which will help build your own database as well as knowledge base. At the same time, help you uncover your blind spots which you might not have thought, right? So I would suggest people that they should join some angel group or maybe some platform and become part of it to understand and see more deal flow, right? That is how they also build their knowledge base. So yeah, that is there. Fourth point I would say is do a bit of due diligence, learn whatever or backtrack and figure out whatever the founder is saying, is it real, not real, what kind of founding team it is, what is their background, what has been their past track record. Do a little bit research on what is the market looking like, how is the competitive landscape, how many other players are there, where they funded or not, how is it in India versus global, has there been any global successes, right? Is it an India specific problem, can it be solved? If yes, then how? If not, then why people have not done, and all that things, right? So this is a little bit of work which people should do, and mostly even if they don't do, I think they can ask these questions from founders, and then obviously they need to do some validation that what the founder is saying, is it correct or not, right? And then the fifth point which I would say is this is something which I have seen. A lot of people, they get very excited and their first check they put in is the biggest check, and then reaching that level takes another 2-3 years for them, right? I've seen a lot of people put in first check which has been like 3x to 5x of what they would put their average typical check size, right? So for example, like I know a few people who have put in like 20 lakh, 25 lakh first check, and just to realize 2-3 investment later that was a big mistake, and they should have started small and diversified, right? So that is what I would say. You should always start small, put in say the minimum check size, be it 3 lakh, 5 lakh, whatever. I'm assuming this is for people who are just starting out, right? So start out small, diversify across a bunch of companies, make your own portfolio, and then slowly you can increase your check size, right? Because that 20 lakh or 25 lakh which you had put in one company, you could have diversified across say 5, 6, 7 companies and learned a lot more and understood yourself also much more, because investing is a journey where you learn about yourself also over a period of time, right? So I think these are the 4 or 5 things which I would suggest anyone. And one hack over here is that one can join one of the many syndicates which are out there on platforms like AngelList, Let's Venture, and many others, right? And start following them and follow the deals, attend the calls, and see how it is. Word of caution over there is also there are tons of syndicates also out there, so you should do a due diligence on the syndicate leads as well, is what I would say, right? You should start seeing what is the track record, what kind of background are they coming from, are they full time into it, or is this just a pastime or side gig for them, right? That helps you understand the skin in the game of the investment lead, right? So yeah, that's there. And yeah, if somebody is interested in knowing more, I run a course, then you can obviously reach out to me and join my course.
I think, Ujwal, these were some of the five, I will say, and with a hack, most brilliant points I've ever heard around investment. And frankly, I had never heard of any of these before this. Could quickly summarize for our audience the 5 points that we discussed, and obviously there was a hack after that as well.
Sure. So I would say first one is building your knowledge base. Second is having your own investment thesis, build your own investment criteria, what all should be there. Third is maybe join an angel network. Fourth is conduct due diligence, do your own work around startups. And fifth is start small and diversify, right? And a hack to this is start by joining some syndicates on platforms like AngelList and Let's Venture, and you will learn a lot.
Brilliant, Ujwal. I think I just want to quickly understand before we move forward, what kind of, say, I'm starting my angel investment journey today.
Yeah.
In the long run, obviously any investment in the startup ecosystem is a very long run game.
Sure.
In the long run, what kind of returns can I expect, and what would be the success rate of these angel investments that typically people do?
And that's a good question, Pritesh. So see, as in, you need to understand how this works, right? So angel investing, or for that matter, startup investing or VC investing, is a game of power law, right? So what I mean over there is basically 1 or 2 startups out of 20 will give you all your returns, right? And the way I tell people about it is you should have a portfolio approach and build a portfolio of at least 20 companies. This need not be in 1 year itself. It can be spread out over 3 years or 5 years depending on one's investment capability and appetite, right? But typically what I have seen is people do it between 18 to 24 months. They build a portfolio of around 20 companies, right? The math works this way, right? If say out of 20 companies, 10 will go down to 0. So you write them off. And you should be completely fine with it, right? You shouldn't lose your sleep. If you are losing your sleep, then you should not get into angel investing at all, right? So 10 will go down to 0.
So you should get into angel investment only if you sleep well, only if you are
Yes.
able to handle a lot of stress, right?
Correct. Well, you shouldn't lose your sleep over losing the money in investment, right? So you shouldn't.
Okay.
Otherwise, don't go for it.
Awesome.
So 10 goes down to 0. 5 will give you 1x return, so you don't lose money over there, right? The next 3 will give you, say for example, 5x return, right? 1 will give you a 10x and 1 should give a 20x. So with this math, you can make a 3x return on your portfolio, right? Which is a very conservative estimate for early stage angel investing or early stage investing, is what I would say. Your outcome or the multiple will depend on that one outcome of the startup, which is a 20x or is it a 100x or 1000x, right? And in the past, things have happened where people have made 10,000x as well, not just in US but in India as well, right? To just give some examples, Ashish Gupta, who was one of the founders of Helion Ventures, he had invested back in 2009 in Flipkart. He had invested a sum of 10 lakhs, right? When Flipkart exited to Walmart, he made 130 crores. 10 lakh investment and 130 crores, right?
That's what kind of multiple is that? 1300 times?
1300x, right? So that kind of things are possible. Yesterday only I was reading a thread on Twitter where somebody was talking about Ola's angel investors, Anupam Mittal, right? That was the thing. So Ola, when they raised the first round, I think they raised 100k or 150k, 370k or something, right? And the kind of multiple which people are getting at the current valuation is 3000x, right? So those are the kind of
crazy,
multiples also
crazy.
which you can get, exactly. And hence I said, like, when I say 10 or 20x, I'm taking the bear of the bear case or the worst case scenarios, right? Very conservative estimate. Obviously you need to know how to pick and choose, right? Assuming you need to do that, if you are able to do that, then 3x is a very easily doable multiple in a time frame of 3 to 5 years, right? Not a very long time horizon, 3 to 5 years, which anyways you are able to make 2x in public markets also, and that also happens over a time frame of 3 to 5 years itself. It doesn't happen in most of the cases in say 1 or 2 years, right? So that kind of examples are there, and then there are obviously many more examples where people have hit 100x regularly, right? So there are people, early investors of Nykaa, who have made 300x when the company went IPO, right? And then there are angel investors like Kunal Jha and then Kunal Bal and Rohit Bansal of Titan Capital, which have seen tremendous success, right? They have multiple unicorns. Then there are people like Shweta Rao, she has started her own venture fund. Same thing with Rehan Yar Khan, who has started his own VC fund. So these are the successes where people have invested in a company, made a crazy return, and then started their own fund, right? So yeah.
Got it. So I think, Ujjwal, that was an interesting discussion on angel investment, and probably if someone looking to start an angel investment, this would be a very quick thesis on how to get started with it, and obviously later on they can get started with the course that you also run, right? I want to come back a little bit to what you're doing today, day in, day out. You run a micro VC called TDV Ventures, right? What are some of the basic, most crucial do's and don'ts a founder should keep in mind when pitching to a VC firm and seeking investment from, say, a micro VC like TDV or any VC or any angel today?
Sure. Yeah, I think as a founder, one should go out and start a conversation, is what I would say, right? What I've seen is a lot of time founders are like so focused on raising funds that they fail to have a basic necessity of conversation or aligning with the investor. Not aligning, I would say, but connecting with the investor is what I would say, right? You need to have a connect with the investor. Once you have that, at least you will build a good rapport. So that is something which is missing in a lot of founders, not all, but the good ones, obviously they know these things. But a lot of pitches which I go through, the founder comes and he's like, this is what we are doing, this is the problem which we are solving, this is our solution, this is how it is better, and they start. I ask them, yeah, well, first introduce yourself, right? Tell me about yourself, start with that, let's connect. You should also ask me, okay, what I am doing and know about it. Obviously, like, a lot of people have done their homework, and I assume that's the reason why they want to directly get onto the business. But see, your LinkedIn, your social media presence gives only 10-20% of what you have done, right? It doesn't portray or showcase what you have done otherwise in life, right? And this initial intro is that moment for a founder to portray and showcase things which are not easily available on the LinkedIn profile, right? And that also acts as a great impression building as well as rapport building with the investor. So that is something which I would recommend founders to do, right? Maybe spend initial 1-2 minutes or 3 minutes, whatever, depending on the time horizon which they have for the meeting. Spend initial 1-2 minutes at least for the introduction of or telling things which are not available on their LinkedIn, right? So that is something which I would say. Then I think a lot of time founders, most of the times they obviously over exaggerate or overestimate the market size, right? And when you ask them layer 2, level 3 questions, they are not able to answer it, right? So I think that is something they should be quite cognizant about, and they should have the numbers right? So that's there. Apart from that, I think if they have done the work well, then they are typically in a good position, and they are able to pitch well, is what I've seen. Third thing I would say is a lot of times some of the founders, or many of the founders for that matter, they believe that they will get investment in the first call itself, right? Which is not true. That is not going to happen at all, right? The aim of the first call is to get the next meeting, right? So you should get or showcase only that much which will get the VC or the angel investor interested enough to have a next call, right? Because as an investor, it's not that after the call I'll just tell कि hey Pritesh, I love your startup, take this my money and done, right? I would also go back to do my own homework, do more analysis, and then if I feel that this is the right person, this is the right company, then I'll get back and reach out to the founder and tell him or her that let's set up another call and discuss further about it, right? So a lot of founders miss out on this point. So I would tell them that first meeting or first call is just to get the investor interested enough to have the next call and then take it forward. Yeah. So yeah.
And I think you mentioned around say the market size and all of that. I think I could totally relate to it. What I've seen is in most startups actually where they go wrong is that, and it's my personal experience as well, is that they overestimate the market size, right?
Correct.
And that's so intuitive for founders actually to be doing that, and that is where eventually the high burn, high growth whole फंडा comes into picture, but वो होता नहीं है eventually ना, अगर कहीं ना कहीं फट जाता है वो. What goes wrong is कि you realize कि आपका market size इतना ही है, फिर आप उसमें user लाने की कोशिश करते हो जो आपके market size में कभी थे ही नहीं, and you start giving out freebies and all of that. You overestimate your market size, you go wrong there, and उसके बाद फिर market size बढ़ाने के चक्कर में, because you've gotten started, right? You have taken a lot of money, you raised a lot of money. आप मार्केट साइज बढ़ाने के चक्कर में आप ग्रोथ में कैपिटल डालते हो एंड यू कीप बर्निंग एंड देन सडनली यू द स्टार्टअप वैनिशेस, दैट मनी आल्सो गोज डाउन द yeah, it's all gone, right? That's where I believe most startups go wrong. But yeah, I think
there is a type 2 also, which where I also was there at one point of time while I was running Athleto, right? Where you believe the market is huge, and it is huge, but is it ready or not is the question, right? So that was the case which happened with me at Athleto. The market was huge, but it was not ready, right? So timing is also a key important aspect of it. Is the market ready in terms of timing because of multiple factors, because of technology? So say there are a bunch of startups which came after 2016 thanks to the Geo movement, right? Similarly, there were a bunch of payment startups which flourished, or UPI flourished because of the UPI rails which were built, right? Before that, if you had done the same thing, you would not have met success. But after UPI or after the Geo movement, if you had done the same thing, you would have met crazy, tremendous success, right? So I think you need to understand the readiness of the market and see the timing. I think that is a very subtle point, which is most of the times outside the control of a founder, and that's where also a lot of people go wrong, and that's where also they overestimate or incorrectly estimate the market, is what I would say, right? Including me, I have done the same mistake.
I think before starting your VC firm, you founded multiple startups, right?
Yeah.
I want to talk about, because we are talking about your startups, I want to talk about Fruiton first. क्या इंस्पायर किया आपको Fruiton start करने के लिए? Why you in IMA, I'm Ahmedabad, and why did you eventually move out of it?
Yeah. So यार that's a very interesting journey. So in the first year, I think pressure काफ़ी रहता है IIM में, right? Across all the IIMs, A में तो अलग level ही रहता है. And at that point of time, people eat anything and everything, right? मतलब जो मिल रहा है खा लो. At that point of time, what I realized is कि कुछ अच्छा healthy मिल ही नहीं रहा.
You mean literally जो मिल रहा है खा लो. Or you're talking about knowledge, literally, okay?
कुछ भी मतलब literally जो मिल रहा है खा लो. Knowledge भी, खाना भी, सब कुछ, right? But when it came to खाना, all the fast food options were only there. There were no healthier alternatives which were available, right? Thankfully, one outlet opened up in our campus, which was around fruits, and they were delivering fresh cut fruits as well as they were delivering juices. But obviously they had their own restrictions कि भाई उनका टाइम था कि सुबह 10 बजे से लेके दोपहर का 3 बजे होगा एंड फिर शाम को 5 बजे से लेके 8 बजे तक होगा. बट मेजॉरिटी पीपल फील हंग्री एट मिडनाइट एंड उसके बाद राइट तो क्या करोगे. तो दिस वाज द इनसाइट और दिस वाज द थिंग बेसिस विच वी स्टार्टेड. And we didn't do it inside the campus because we thought campus में करेंगे तो easily लोग ले लेंगे because वो behavior है, demand है. We wanted to do it outside because that is where the real learning would happen. So that was the thought which we started to provide a healthier alternative to snacking, right? And hence we started with a subscription service in Ahmedabad itself. Outside the campus, we took a small 2 BHK and we set up a manufacturing facility over there where we had some machines installed for preparing cold pressed juices and then delivering it to the corporates, right? So it was a subscription based service for delivering fresh juice and fresh fruits to these corporates. But it was a good business. It was a profitable business where we were profitable from day one. We were not burning any money. We had invested our own money in the machines and all, and we were breaking even in 6 months. So that was, it was great. But it was a very operationally intensive and challenging business, right? Because of factors like the sector in which we were. Because fruits have a shelf life. After that, it will be like foul. It will start smelling. It will be sour. It will be many other things, right? So scaling it was a challenge, and that was the reason for which I moved out of it. I बोला कर तो लोगे, but whether will you be able to find people who are as strict and following the SOP which we as founders were doing, right? So that was the reason for which I moved out. बोला ये scalable करना बहुत मुश्किल है. And then obviously in 15-16 we saw raw pressery and all, which came and they started doing great stuff around it. So yeah, that was there. But yeah, again, I think we were ahead of the time and we were doing a different model then.
अरे
So
कब की
that
बात कर रहे हैं
was
मुझे? What time are we
This
talking
is
about?
2014.
2014. Very new. The startup
Almost
ecosystem
correct.
was very new, very
Yes,
new back then.
correct.
Yep.
Yes.
And then you happened to form Athleto, right? After a couple of years, I believe, after Fruiton, and it was a very unique idea when it was founded. And then there are a lot of companies that later on came up. एक Zomato ने acquire भी करा. Can you share some insights on your experience building Athleto and the challenges you faced?
Sure. So yeah, this was again 2014, and when I started after I exited Fruiton, I took a 2-3 month break, and then I was thinking what next. So तब 2013-14 was the time when everything was getting online, right? मतलब you could book, मतलब you could purchase obviously things on Flipkart and all. But I think that was the time when urban clubs of the world also had come, and with that you could book like saloon guy, you could book a massage guy, you could book a plumber, electrician, everything, right? And I had been a sports person all throughout my life, played multiple sports. तो मैंने बोला why not a sports ground, right? क्योंकि people play till their school and college lives. As soon as they pass out, they stop playing. And we did a survey around it to figure out why does this happen. The main problem was people, they moved cities, right? क्योंकि college के graduation के बाद we will move to other city most of the times, right? So you don't know where to go to play, right? Which are the facilities available. So that was the first problem, right? कि भाई where to go, and nobody was solving for it, right? And second level problem was to कि भाई किसके साथ खेले, whom to play with. So where to go, once you solve that, then whom to play, because you might not have a group also, right? But many a times what we saw is a lot of people had the groups in their offices itself or in the society in which they lived, but they didn't have a place. So we started to solve out for that purpose. Okay, let's digitize the sporting arenas in India and bring them online on the supply side, and on the demand side help the end customer give a one-stop shop where they can just find out places around them to play and make a booking online, right? So say for example, if you wanted to play badminton, you can go to our app and you can see the nearest places around you, so you can see the availability in real time and make a booking online and play. So that was a simple concept which we went out to do, and the idea was to digitize the sports sector of India, which we tried, but I think over a period of time we realized again we were thoda ahead of the time. The market was not ready, and hence that's where I said the market size which I had was not the actually available market, that was the potential market only, which will be there in the future also, but matlab market was not ready at that point of time. So yeah,
I think a lot of startups have come out in the last couple of not just couple of years, 4-5
last
years.
3-4 years,
Yeah, that बहुत सारे. I think that is where the role of an investor also comes into picture, right? They support you, they understand that the ecosystem is growing and there will be a lot of
Correct.
marketing capital that will be needed. And what is your experience raising funds for Athleto, and I believe that led to you also getting into
Correct.
VC. And yeah, what was your
Yes,
experience, man?
yes, yes. So yeah, it was a very grueling experience, I would say, and a very struggling one also. So I had interacted with more than 200 VCs, not just in India, but went to Europe couple of times, went to US couple of times, right? So interacted with all of them, all set of investors, right? And obviously there were positives, there was negatives. So we happened to raise one small angel round from a set of angels, using which we built the product. We did our own GTM. At the peak, we were doing around 1 crore a month kind of thing, right? But after that, it had plateaued, and that's where we wanted more marketing dollars to grow, right? And that's when we went out and started pitching to all this variety of investors. In fact, we went to YC. That's when it happened, but unfortunately, we couldn't make it through. But we happened to see the YC office because back then it was in-person interview.
Yep.
This was 2016, is what I'm talking of, right? So happened to visit that facility and the office. But here, the major challenges which all the investors had was around the operation intensity of this business, right? So that was one. And second was around people didn't believe that this is a big enough market from the demand side, right? And then obviously there were some who didn't believe it from the supply side as well. Though on the supply side, because we had the data points, we had calmed down the streets of at least 8 cities, and we had figured out. So there we were able to convince. On the demand side, we were not able to convince. And then after a point of time, वो investor का भी होता है, right? There is some intuition or a gut which they have built over a period of time through their own knowledge, right? Which I respect now. कि हाँ मतलब they were right? Then obviously I was not getting it as a founder कि भाई ये क्या बोल रहे हैं, मतलब इतनी demand है, there are so many people, but yeah, मतलब now sitting on the side I realized that was wrong and investors were right. But that was the learning यार, मतलब I struggled across these 2-3 things. But what I started liking is the interactions and the work which these investors were doing, right? And that is what helped me get onto the other side of the table and move into the investing industry, right? So yeah, and during that time also we had a couple of term sheets while I was raising this round, but they were shark deals, right? Well, these investors wanted like 50%, 55%, 60%. So I think, I don't know, retrospectively looking, maybe we should have taken that. At least we would have built something. But at that point of time, we were thinking about diluting 50-60% at Series A doesn't make sense. We wanted to build something big. Like all the founders, we also thought this will be a unicorn outcome and all that. But yeah, that didn't happen.
I think I can clearly see that now the tables have changed. I think you're on the other side now. I want to understand, as a VC, as an angel investor, you have invested in multiple companies now. क्या आपका investment rate है for every how many startups that pitch to you? Typically as an angel you will take up that case, or as a VC क्या आपके investment rates हैं?
So yeah, I think out of every year I see around 1,000 to 1,500 or rather 1,200-1,300 startups kind of thing, right? And at least in the last 2 years, my rate has been 1 investment per month, right? So that's the thing, right? So the criteria is pretty high. Most of the things we are there to say no. किसको हाँ बोले वाला चीज है.
So that जो yes rate है ये पहुंच रहा है around 1.2% के आसपास. That's it.
नहीं 0.1% हुआ. 1,000 में से 1,000 में से 10, yes, हाँ. 1,000 is 1%, yes, 1%, correct.
Awesome. So, having said that, since the demand supply is such skewed, and there is a lot of shortage of capital still, although startup ecosystem mature हो रहा है इंडिया में, but अभी भी capital का shortage है. So, what are some of the tips, some of the best practices that you would recommend for founders to negotiate farewell terms, deal structures with VC firms during their fundraising rounds?
First of all, I would disagree with you over there. I feel, at least at this point of time, all the money is there only for early stage startups, right? For people with ideas, for people with MVPs, for people with early revenue traction, right? All the money is there just for them. All the top VC houses, they are also investing at idea seed stage. And at this point of time, we have more number of angels in Indian ecosystem than India has ever witnessed them. We have more number of angel platforms which we have ever seen before. We have more number of micro VC funds than we have ever seen before, right? So
I think,
I would
Ujjwal,
say
I think
at this point
also,
of time we have the maximum money available for early stage companies, right?
but I think also a small comparative analysis. It was not just an absolute remark, because when we were part of YC, we had the privilege to raise from a lot of these US angels,
Correct.
US company, US VCs and all. And वहाँ पे जो capital है, the kind of capital
True.
available out there
Agree.
was it मतलब starts to, I don't know, it starts looking very small. But yeah, I think I
Agree.
totally agree that ki early stage pe raise karna has become tons and tons of, there are lots of tons and tons of money available, has become very easier than it was some time back. Than it was, say, when I was starting up for the first time in my life.
Same.
Yeah.
Correct.
But yeah, still, what would be some of the tips for or best practices that founders can utilize to negotiate favorable terms for themselves?
Yeah, I think first and foremost thing over there is they should build a rapport, which I said, and you should look for the aligned interest, right? Matlab, most of the time where the differences happen is because founders and investors are not aligned, right? If you can bring in that alignment, I think that solves for most of the things, right? तो वो चीज़ है क्योंकि अर्ली स्टेज पे मोस्ट ऑफ द इन्वेस्टमेंट टर्म्स आर वेरी प्रिटी स्टैंडर्ड स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड दीज डेज, राइट? तो उसमें 3-4 चीज़ ही होती है जो आप देखते हो, विच इज़ अराउंड लिक्विडेशन प्रेफरेंस, विच इज स्टैंडर्ड 1x ऑन पार्टिसिपेटिंग विच हैपेंस. देन सेकंड थिंग विच इज देयर इज अराउंड एग्जिट टाइम होराइजन, राइट? कि भाई कितना होता है. तो व्हाट आई हैव सीन लेटली इज लॉट ऑफ इन्वेस्टर्स, इवन अर्ली स्टेज इन्वेस्टर्स, दे पुट अ टाइमलाइन, राइट, which a founder should fight against. कि भाई timeline you can't have, कि भाई give me an exit in 3 years or 5 years or 6 years. That is not a right expectation is what I would say, right? You can do it on a best effort basis, but you cannot say कि भाई इतने time में exit देना ही है, right? So that is something which a founder should definitely fight for, is what I would say, and look out for when they are drafting their SHA, SSA. Other is around founder vesting, right? फाउंडर वेस्टिंग इज़ अ इम्पॉर्टेंट टर्म. यूजुअली 3-4 साल का वेस्टिंग होता है, उसके अंदर भी क्लिफ और वो सब कुछ होता है, विच वेरीज फ्रॉम कंपनी टू कंपनी. बट मैनी अ टाइम्स इन्वेस्टर्स पुट कंप्लीट रेस्ट्रिक्शंस दैट founders cannot transfer or they cannot vest, or the vesting has to be over say 5 years or 6 years. Usually this is again pretty standard 3-4 years, but some investors they do drag it beyond. So that also a founder should look out for and safeguard that. Right, so that is there. Apart from that, I think MSOP is something which founders can ask for, not at idea or early stage, but maybe at Series A, Series B stage, assuming they have diluted too much, then to just get back their equity or get more skin in the game, they can ask for MSOP, which is management SOPs.
What would be MSOPs like? What do they look like?
So these are say a different category of ESOPs, right? ESOPs you give it to your employees, potential employees or existing employees and all. MSOP you give it to your management, which is the founders and say maybe it's a top founding team, right? And these are milestone linked, right? So say for example you are supposed to hit a milestone of 50 crores a year. Then this MSOP could be say if you achieve that 50 crores, then you will get say some percentage of stock. If you hit say 60 crores, then you will get some more, something of that sort, right? And this can be staggered, and this can be devised at each and every round or subsequent round which the company raises, right? And I've seen a lot of founders and amazing teams use it effectively to their advantage, right? Obviously hitting the goal which you promise doesn't happen. 95% of the times teams don't hit the goals or the projections which they have projected, but that's where it is, right? That's where it comes down to. If you are able to hit, then you will be rewarded, right? So that is something which I would say later stage founders they can negotiate and ask for, which a lot of founders which I realize they don't know only about this. So MSOP is something, a tool which they should focus on, not at early stage, because early stage में तो you haven't diluted. Early stage में भी होता है, if somebody has raised say 2-3 rounds and diluted 30-40%, then you can use it. But mostly I have seen this happen across Series A, B, C and later stages. So yeah.
I think I'm hearing about MSOPs for the first time, so that was an eye opener for me as well. And I think since you have been on both sides, I think, and we have discussed both sides also. अभी तक हम founder side भी आपका discuss करे, हम लोग VC side भी discuss करे. I want to understand what are the challenges now coming to the VC side a little bit. What are the challenges involved in running a VC firm, and how are they similar and different from running a startup? Because they're very similar as well, right?
Correct. Absolutely. हाँ यार मतलब I think that's a very valid point, right? So challenges, I would start with challenges first, right? Challenges are around your fundraising, right? So say for a typical founder, the fundraising cycle is, it could be as low as 1 month, extending up to 6 months. That's the average cycle, right? So 1 to 6 months is what it is. But for VC funds, what I hear and what I see is it is between 6 to 12 months at least, right? In the current times, it is going up to 18 months also, and in some cases it's going up to 24 months also, right? Because VCs, we raise money from set of LPs, which are institutional investors. These are endowment funds. These are wealthy individuals, HNIs. These are family offices, right? So they have a set process, and they are in no hurry to deploy the capital or anything, right? You cannot get FOMO over there, which a founder can instill among the VCs, right? So that is a very difficult part, and there is a set process to it, and there is very limited or possibility that you can hurry that up, right? Especially in bear markets. Because and at the same time there are multiple new VC funds also which have come up, which I was talking of, and everybody is vying for the same pool of capital, right? So raising funds for a VC fund is, I would say, 10 times tougher than it is for a startup founder, right? So that is the first and foremost challenge, I would say. Second is the same thing happens with deal sourcing as well, right? Identifying promising startups, investment opportunities is the key critical success factor for any VC firm success, right? But this involves immense networking, research, due diligence, right? And even if you know which company is out there, getting a foot in door and getting, say, some pie of the fundraise becomes very challenging, because as I told, these days all the, say, Series A stage investors, they are also coming at early stage, right? So fighting with Sequoias or Accels of the world as a micro VC or angel becomes very difficult, right? So that is the second most challenging part, is what I would say. Third is then obviously you need to manage a portfolio, right? You need to monitor them constantly, see how the investments are doing, provide them guidance, provide them mentorship, connect them to multiple folks who might be relevant in the ecosystem, and then obviously take a call on which company to do follow-on investment and where not to, right? And then obviously after a period of time, you need to have your exit strategy in place as well, right? Okay, what is the right exit? Is it a Series B round, or should you wait further for some acquisition opportunity, or should you wait till the IPO, right? Because maximizing the returns for investor is the key element for me as a VC fund, for my investors, right? When can I maximize? Will it be at Series B or will it be at IPO? And will the company go to IPO from Series B is the biggest question, right? Series B mein to chalo, at least you are getting exit, so you are sure. But you don't know after Series B what can happen, right? Things could go down south. Things might not work out as they planned. So to take that call on whether to exit at Series B or Series C or staying put till IPO is a very tough call, right? And then I would say managing expectations of all your LPs is something which is a difficult task. You need to keep on updating them regularly. You need to keep on maintaining good relationships, because money also from LPs come in tranches, right? So you need to showcase your delivery on a regular basis. So that is, I would say, similar to what it is for a founder. But these are, I think, some of the challenges.
I think, Ujwal, I think I have so many things that I want to discuss, given the challenges that you talked about. The first thing that I want to discuss is why are these larger funds? Why? What changed there? Why are these larger funds like Sequoia, Elevation, all of that? They're coming at seed stage these days. क्यों हो रहा है ऐसा?
Yeah, I think
that's a crazy phenomenon, and matlab, probably started I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years back, right? Back then probably 1-2 seed stage investments these VC firms were making. Up to every year they're making multiple C stage investments. I don't understand what's happening there.
Now see, I think early stage mein you get early access and hence you can own more of that potential winners, right? So when you come in the first round, usually companies dilute anywhere from 15% to 25%, 30%, right? It's a wider range, sometimes going as low as 10. But when the VC brand comes in, then they demand a higher percentage holding because of their brands, right? And they get that foot in the door early. And then they have an option to hold on to their, say for example, if they have taken 20%, then they can obviously keep on doing pro rata and super pro rata and maintain their stake over the next 2-3 rounds, right? Compared to them coming at say Series A or Series B, where they might not get say 20% or 25% or 30%, they might get a lesser stake in the company, right? So that is, I think, one of the key motivations of coming in early, right? The flip side of it from a founder perspective is if say this VC fund, blue chip VC fund who has invested in your first round, if they don't invest in your next round, that acts as a big red flag for the new upcoming investors, right? That is a signaling effect which was not that evident in the bull market, but will be very evident in the bear market.
Yeah.
Right? The reason for that is incoming investor will ask a simple question: why are your existing investors not doubling down if you are performing well, right? If some company is performing well, obviously they would want to double down. If they are not, then that's a clear sign, right? So that is an advice which I would give to a lot of founders out there, that be very, very where you raise your first round from, because if you are raising it from the blue chip VCs, you are taking those guys out from the probability of raising the next round from, right? So yeah.
So I had a quick follow-up question as well, and a very quick one. So as a founder, would you recommend raising from these larger VCs during the seed or strictly from angels? Because angels are able to add a lot of strategic value. That is what I've seen. Are larger VCs able to add that kind of value, especially the choti companies, because they're already managing a lot of, their portfolio consists of a lot of large companies where most of their, I'm assuming, bulk of their time goes, right? Should, as a founder, we be looking at some of the larger VCs even at a seed stage?
So I would definitely suggest like raising it from a lot of micro VCs, right? The best thing which is emerging and what I'm seeing is diversify your fund with. Maybe get, say for example, let's take an example, somebody is raising 500k round or 1 million round, right? Let's take example 500k round is the first round which somebody is raising. Then they should raise it from 2-3 micro VC funds who can put in 100k to 200k checks, right? What this will do is this will help them have connections with these 3 different funds as well as some angels, right? Who could be their well-wishers, and they will help them in multiple ways, which otherwise would be difficult, or if they would have gotten say only one VC, then they would be completely driven by that one VC itself, right? Obviously VCs do their own value add, no doubt in that, right? They have a huge team which micro VC funds or angels don't have, but that's the point of having multiple angels or multiple micro VC funds, right? Because for them your success is more critical, is what I would say. If the company is able to do great, then obviously they will be the one who will be benefiting most, right? So, and other advantage or reason why you should take it from smaller funds is because they move very fast, right? You can get the deal closed from a micro VC fund or angels within days or at max weeks, compared to if it goes to a VC fund, it will take much longer time because of their set of processes, right? So that's there.
Ujwal, I think बहुत सारा discussion करा हमने around startups, around VCs. मैं अगर I have a quick question. If you were to reboot today, let's say apocalypse की बात करते हैं, if you got a reboot today, would you love to start up all over again, or would you love to do a VC all over again?
Because that's a very, very tough question, right? I don't have a specific answer to that. I think अभी angel investing and micro VC की journey just चालू हुई है, so I haven't seen that completely to answer that. But I think that I would be in a spot, right? मतलब enjoyed founding a startup also very much, and that's a great journey. It's a completely different thing. This is in a way similar, but with the challenges which I mentioned, right? So these are different set of challenges. Maybe I would want to see one cycle of this and then take that call, right? So if say Apocalypse happens tomorrow, then I would want to continue doing what I'm doing, which is micro VC strategy, right? And at least let that play out once and then take a call. Yeah.
Cool. So I have a few quick questions for you, Ujwal, and let's take them up one by one. Okay. So at TDV, पहले थोड़ा सा TDV की बात करते हैं. You focus on staying involved with startups and founders you invest in, and support your growth. That's what we know about TDV, right? You support their growth beyond capital infusion. In what ways does TDV support its portfolio companies?
Yeah, so at early stage there are multiple things, right? Matlab it's just a bare bone company or founders only which are there, and maybe 2-3 more people. So they need help with brainstorming, right? Because at that point of time, a lot of things founders think you don't have many people to brainstorm with. Or so I become that sounding board where I'm open to the founders. They can reach out to me anytime. So in fact, yesterday night itself, I was having a call with one of my portfolio company founders at 2 in the night, right? And we were discussing like some things are not working, kuch to fat gaya tha company mein, so how to solve for it and all, right? So you just need some third party outside view about your day-to-day things, right? So I become that, and I enjoy that process, and that's why I'm here, right? So that is one big help which a lot of founders have told me, which they get from me and they seek out from me, right? So that is one. Second is obviously connecting with say different businesses, helping them get foot in the door over there. Same thing with a lot of investors, because I work with investors as well. I'm connected to all the top investors as well as long tail of investors. So helping them for the next round, doing their fundraise strategy and all, right? Discussing around it. And third thing is around hiring the key persons at the beginning, right? When the company is forming their core team or say early leadership team, or I won't say a leadership team, but early founding team, right? So helping them find and pick, and sometimes also sitting on the interview, giving them a second view about the candidate and all, right? So
That's interesting. That's interesting, Ujwal.
We do, yeah.
That's the third point is interesting. I want to talk about a little more. Ki finding the core team or starting जो early founding team है, you help them find that how man. I mean, I have never had that kind of support. I have had to do all of that heavy lifting myself, especially when you're hiring for the core team. I want to understand how an investor can support there.
Yeah, I think so. This is completely network dependent game, right? So because of my virtue of being in this ecosystem for last decade, build enough relationships, and then obviously because of the kind of colleges which I have been associated with, there also you get a lot of talent, good quality talent among them, right? So just digging into your networks and getting them and connecting, and then just you act as a matchmaker, right? You just facilitate conversations, and then obviously it is up to the founder whether it plays out to something. Most of the time it doesn't, but even say 2 out of 10 times if it works out, that's a big win for me, right? So yeah.
One of the core reasons why I feel it a lot of times it doesn't work out is that, especially after you have had some time after college, is that most of your peers, most of the people around you, they have had tons of experience in the corporate world now. बहुत साल से हो गया उनको, and वो एकदम एक inflated salary पर होते हैं, not inflated but बहुत high salary range पर होते हैं.
Correct. With startups can't offer.
Yeah, वो golden handcuffs आ जाते हैं, फिर they're not able to start up, and again they have a life, they have a family, they have a house and everything. So cost भी बढ़ जाता है, right? So as you keep, what I realize is as you keep growing up, it's very difficult to get your peers in your founding team, in your core team and all.
So that is where I come into play, right? I help in convincing these folks why you should go after this rocket ship, right? Because obviously it's very difficult, as you rightly said, and obviously there are a lot of constraints also which these guys have. But उधर ही है कि वो founder वाला vision दिखाना, and founder तो चलो बताता ही है, but उसके beyond, if the third person or the investor is also showing, then that adds weight to the candidate's decision making, right? तो वो उधर थोड़ा आई ट्राई एंड प्ले दैट मैच मेकिंग वाला guy, right? Where I go out of my way and try convincing this potential candidate that this is the right startup and this is where it could go and this is how it could change your fortunes as well, right? And help creating your wealth as well. Which obviously you will see with this set of people, I don't believe the cost of that experimentation is high. Let's assume if they are taking this challenge for or giving it 1 year, what at max will happen is maybe say they will be losing out on 50 to 70% of their salary which they would have earned otherwise, right? But the kind of experience which they have gained, that will only add to their profile and it will be more valuable when they go out for the next job, right? And with their pedigrees and experience, I don't think it would be easy for them any day to get the job of at least what they were getting paid before 1 year when they joined the startup, right? So you just need to help them and calm down on their risks, which as a employee you might think the risk is very high, but when you think it from a different perspective, it is not that high, right? It's just 50 to 70% of your pay for 1 year, right? So yeah.
I'm actually meeting someone today in 3-4 hours, and I think that those are brilliant perspectives, and I believe एक बार उनको अपने इन्वेस्टर से बात कराना जरूरी है.
हाँ नहीं, definitely that should help. I think you should do that, and a lot of people do that actively, right? मतलब in fact VCs they do this all the time, right? They always get on an interview with the key hires of their company, and that helps in improving the conversion ratio. Right?
Nice. Quick next question, and इसके बारे में हमने बात भी करी थोड़ी देर पहले, है ना? As a what are the new trends? Because as an investor, as a business enthusiast, I want to understand कि क्या नए trends है that you have your eyes on. I heard that you said वो एक religious वाला space है that is coming up. What are the sectors that you think have a huge potential?
So again, the ones which I mentioned, right? Religious tech is one, definitely. Religious/spirituality/ astrotech kind of things. That is one huge
so, Ujwal,
then second,
I'm asking this question from a founder perspective for all the founders out there कि किस space में उनको they should be looking out at, right? Obviously एक passion वगैरह जरूरी है, but yeah, what are the larger spaces that are coming up?
Right. So this is one huge large space. Second, I would say gaming, be it casual or real money gaming. Casual बना रहे हो तो then it is a game of DAO MAO. Right, and you will monetize mostly through ads, sometimes through subscription, but mostly through ads. So uske liye India is a good market, and obviously going beyond India makes a lot of sense. Real money gaming is an India thing, so that is something which works wonders, and that is working very well. People have seen multiple successes in Dream11 and Games 24/7 and many other companies, right? Gamescraft and all, and people run good profitable companies over here. Many cases you don't need to raise VC round as well, right? So that is another good space. Third very emerging space or sector which I am quite bullish on is creator economy, right? Or the way I would like to say is the future of work, right? A lot of the way I see it is people will stop getting employed with one company over the next 5 to 10 years, and they will work with multiple companies for the specific role or their expertise which they have, right? So say for example, right now a single person is working 9 hours of their day in one company over a long period of time. What will happen is they will work 3 hours per day in 3 different companies over a long duration of time, or maybe it could be bound to the project. It could be kind of a consultation kind of thing, right? So this is a trend which I believe will happen with this remote work culture and people wanting more freedom and more control over their time. So this is what will play out, and this will change the whole dynamics of work, right? This will increase the creator economy, this will increase the gig economy, and there will be a bunch of tools which will be required for this. There will be a bunch of different experiences which will have to be built for the supply side, demand side, the platform and everything, right? So that is one area which I constantly look out for, and that is where the India story, the mass India Bharat story also comes into play, right? With a lot of creators coming into play. Anybody and everybody has become a creator these days, but the long tail is not able to monetize it well, right? But there are a bunch of tools which are helping them monetize now, and earn them as much as like 10,000 to 20,000 a month, which is great, right? So if you assume, say, a tier 3, 4, 5 person who is not earning anything, they might be in their college days or just graduated but without any job. This could be a great tool to help them earn that much, right? And that is happening, and I have invested in a couple of such companies, and obviously I keep on looking out for more such opportunities, right? So these are there, and obviously SaaS is evergreen, so that is there. So I would say these are the three different sectors which people might not have heard that much of, or they are not focusing on, which I am focusing on. So yeah.
That's an interesting vision. I think you mentioned people working at 3 companies 3 hours a day. I think early trends तो उसके दिख ही रहे हैं. We have had people, obviously उसको institutionalize करने की ज़रूरत है, but we've had people working at multiple companies during the COVID phase, during the whole remote phase. A lot of people got fired for that moonlighting phenomena and everything. उसको थोड़ा सा institutionalize करने की ज़रूरत है. Interesting piece, I think. Let's see how it evolves. Would you like to maybe name the companies that you have invested in? You said you have invested in a couple of companies.
So one company I can name, that is called Grow, which I have invested in recently. They help in monetizing the long tail of creators, right? So think of it like it's a dream 11 for creators basically, right? Where they submit, there is a challenge. So say for example, Mother's Day is coming, right? So Mother's Day will be the brand caption. A lot of brands want videos and content around it, so they will say they want content around Mother's Day. So what this marketplace will do is they will convert this requirement into a challenge and then post it in their community of creators, right? And then creators will come in over there and they will upload their videos. They can upload multiple videos, and the best videos which are selected by the brand, they will get the prize money, right? So whatever the company earns, they share it with the creators, right? So yeah, that's what. And then these guys promote through their own social media networks. So you are basically leveraging this micro nano influencers and increasing their reach to leverage your brand. And what the company gets out of this with the brand is that they get higher visibility with lower marketing acquisition dollars or marketing dollars basically, right? So they are optimizing for the CAC basically, or branding spend, which a brand otherwise does on Facebook or Google or anything.
What are the red flag signs that you look for that may indicate that a startup may not be a good fit for your investment, or say for any VC investment in general?
Correct. I think again it boils down to the market size, right? So market size is the first and straightforward thing, that it has to be a huge market, $1 billion plus opportunity for a VC fund, and even for an angel fund or micro VC fund to invest in, right? So that is the first thing. So if it is a small market, it's a clear no, right? Then early stages, there are very limited things which you can evaluate on. So founding team is the most critical thing, right? So what I look out for is the clarity of thought or clarity of vision which the founder has when they are starting out, right? Obviously this can change over a period of time, and most of the times founders pivot from what they've started with, but at least when they're starting out, they should be realistic and they should have a good vision or clarity of vision which should be there, right? So that is something which I look out for. What else? Yeah, I think these are the key things or red flags which I would look out for, right? And obviously then they shouldn't expect that way, give me a check or write me a check in the first meeting itself, as I told you. So yeah, that's that.
It's interesting that you mentioned pivot, right? Now I have a very strong thesis. I'm not a very strong believer in ideas. Even internally in our company, I don't very strongly believe in idea. I'm a very strong believer in execution and being able to adapt to things that are happening around you. And things have been moving really fast over the last couple of years. या 3 साल बोल दे तो कोविड हुआ, फिर एक रिसेशन आया, फिर अब चैट जीपीटी आया. Things have been changing such rapidly. I want to understand कि how comfortable investors are, VCs are with founders pivoting, and where can say VCs or investors support founders there?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question which you asked. I think many VCs are more on the edge than ever before, right? Because with especially ChatGPT, I think a bunch of companies will be made redundant overnight, right? And that's what we are seeing. So I think the first step which I am doing, as well as I'm sure all the VCs are doing, is just doing a portfolio check, right? Which all portfolio companies will get affected or can get affected potentially. And
I think
how
Czech,
to
you might be aware of Czech. They lost
yes,
a major
exactly.
part of their market share.
Correct, exactly. The shares went down overnight, right? The revenues went down crazily. And I think a bunch of tech companies will face this reality check, right? Because anything related to, say, basic education is solved for by ChatGPT, right? So I think the whole sector will have to be looked through a different lens now, which I'm sure people are discovering. I don't look at edtech predominantly, so I'm not very aware. But I'm looking out for a lot of other AI-based companies, which anyways we're doing. So what I'm seeing is a lot of them are integrating this ChatGPT tools and many other tools which are out there in the market and building a hybrid version of it. What needs to be seen and which is not answered is that they are building on top of this layer. How stable is this layer and what could be the risk which this layer can give them, right? So that is something which I as an investor keep on constantly seeking and figuring. So say for example, if somebody is building on ChatGPT 4, if tomorrow ChatGPT 4 starts charging a bomb, or if they find out that some algorithm is wrong in their AI LLMs itself, then what happens, right? So a lot of brainstorming, a lot of discussions which keep on happening, and I think this is an ever evolving thing, so it will keep on happening for quite some time. But being on top of the latest developments is the key over here, and not panicking as well, because a lot of founders as well as investors, including me, we panic because like obviously news is sensationalized things, but you need to spend some more time and get deep down and brainstorm, what I would say, or maybe get back to the storyboarding board and figure out what are the potentials or what are the possibilities which you can look into with every new technology which is emerging.
I think Ujjwal, we discussed tons of points. I think those were some brilliant insights from both sides of the table. And if say tomorrow our viewers or founders want to reach out to you, Twitter, LinkedIn, what would be the best way to reach out to you, man?
I think LinkedIn is the best, followed by Twitter. So definitely. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me on email ID as well. That's ujwal@tdv.partners. Ujwal with single J.
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah, you
then.
can put it. Correct. Absolutely.
Thanks, Ujjwal, for taking out this time, and it was lovely having this discussion with you. I am hoping we'll catch up again, probably next time.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Pritesh, for having me there. It was my pleasure to be here and discuss about this, and hopefully this will be helpful to the audience out there. And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And always great talking to you, Pritesh, and let's catch up soon.
Awesome, man.
Okay.
इफ़ यू एंजॉयड दिस तो लाइक करिए, सब्सक्राइब कर लीजिए, एंड क्विक हाई भेजो मुझे अपने थॉट्स के साथ एंड द गेस्ट यू वांट. एंड आपको हमारी कम्युनिटी के लिए लिंक्स मिल जाएंगे नोट्स में, तो यू शुड ज्वाइन दीज कम्युनिटीज़ फॉर ब्रिलियंट नेटवर्किंग एंड टू पार्टिसिपेट इन दी अपकमिंग इवेंट्स एंड फॉर कनेक्टिंग विद द पॉडकास्ट गेस्ट. चलो मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट डिस्कशन में.